The rain hammered against the chapel's stained glass windows like angry fists demanding entry. I stood at the back of the room, my second-hand black dress clinging to my damp skin, water still dripping from my hair onto the worn wooden floor. The scent of lilies was overwhelming, suffocating, mixed with expensive cologne, polished leather, and something else. Power. Old money. Danger. I shouldn't have been there. My fingers trembled as I gripped the edge of a pew, trying to steady myself. Around me, men in tailored suits worth more than my annual rent stood like statues, their faces carved from stone. Women dripped in diamonds and grief, their makeup pristine even through their tears. And at the front, surrounded by mountains of white roses and flickering candles, lay the closed mahogany casket. His casket. I couldn't breathe. The air was too thick, too heavy with the weight of my secret, the truth that burned in my chest like swallowed fire. 3 days ago, I'd been wiping down tables at Marino's, the upscale Italian restaurant where I'd worked double shifts for the past 2 years, trying to save enough to give my daughter the life she deserved. 3 days ago, I'd been invisible. Just another tired waitress with dark circles under her eyes, and dreams that had long since faded to gray. Then I'd seen the newspaper. Crime Lord Salvatore De Luca dead at 43. Funeral services Friday. The world had tilted sideways. The coffee pot had slipped from my hands, shattering across the tile floor in an explosion of ceramic and dark liquid. Because I knew that name. I knew that face. The sharp jawline. The dark eyes that had haunted my dreams and nightmares for 5 years. I knew the father of my child. "Excuse me." A voice, cold and sharp as a blade, cut through my spiral of memories. "This is a private service." I looked up into the face of a man who could have been carved from marble. Tall, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through his dark hair at the temples. His suit was impeccable, his eyes the color of a winter storm. And when they landed on me, I felt stripped bare, examined, judged. My voice came out as a whisper. I cleared my throat, tasting copper. Fear. I need to speak. Before they what? His hand was suddenly on my elbow, firm but not rough, guiding me backward toward the entrance. The pressure was undeniable. "You need to leave. Now." "You don't understand." Desperation made me bold. I planted my feet, ignoring the curious stares burning into my back. "He's not dead. Salvatore isn't dead." The words hung in the air like a gunshot. The man's grip tightened, just for a second. Something flickered in those cold eyes, surprise, perhaps, or calculation. Around us, conversations died. Heads turned. The priest at the front of the chapel faltered in his Latin prayers. "What did you just say?" The question came from someone else. A woman's voice, sharp and refined, with an accent that spoke of European finishing schools and old wealth. I turned to see her emerging from the front row. She was stunning. Mid-50s, perhaps, with silver blonde hair swept into an elegant chignon, wearing black that probably cost more than my car, but it was her eyes that caught me, dark, knowing, and fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "I said he's not dead." I forced the words out louder this time, even as my heart tried to climb up my throat. "I saw him 2 days ago, at the hospital where my daughter is being treated." The silence was absolute. Even the rain seemed to pause. "Guards." The silver-haired man's voice was low, controlled. "Remove this woman. Gently. Wait." The elegant woman held up one perfectly manicured hand. She moved closer, her heels clicking against the floor with the precision of a metronome. When she was close enough that I could smell her perfume, jasmine and something darker, more complex, she studied my face with the attention of someone examining a painting for authenticity. "What's your name?" "Elena. Elena Martinez." My voice shook, but I held her gaze. "And I'm telling you the truth. I saw Salvatore De Luca 2 nights ago at St. Mary's Hospital. He was alive. He was walking. He was what?" She leaned in, and I saw it then. The resemblance. The same dark eyes, the same sharp cheekbones. This was his mother. This was Salvatore's mother. "He was visiting someone," I finished quietly. On the pediatric oncology ward. Something passed across her face too quickly for me to read. Then the mask was back, perfect and impenetrable. Antonio. She didn't look away from me. Bring her to the car, discreetly. Signora, with all respect. Now. The word was soft, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. The silver-haired man, Antonio, hesitated for only a heartbeat before nodding. His hand returned to my elbow, but the pressure was different now, not forceful. Almost protective. You're making a serious accusation, he murmured as he guided me through a side door, away from the staring crowd. If you're lying, I'm not. I stumbled as we emerged into a narrow hallway, the sound of rain immediately louder. I swear I'm not lying. I saw him. He spoke to me. Then you're either very brave or very foolish. Antonio pushed open a heavy door, and we were outside, the rain immediately soaking through my thin dress. A black Mercedes with tinted windows idled at the curb, water streaming off its polished surface. For your sake, I hope it's the former. He opened the back door, and I saw her already sitting there, the elegant woman, perfectly dry, waiting. She patted the leather seat beside her with one hand. Get in, Elena Martinez. You and I need to have a very serious conversation about my son. I hesitated. Every instinct I'd developed growing up in the foster system, every warning bell that had kept me alive through dangerous neighborhoods and dangerous men, screamed at me to run. This was the Mafia. These were people who made other people disappear. I knew what Salvatore was, what his family was. I'd known it 5 years ago when I'd been stupid enough to fall for his lies, his touch, his promises, but I also knew my daughter was dying. And if there was even the smallest chance that what I'd seen was real, that Salvatore was alive, and had been at that hospital for a reason. If there was any possibility that the bone marrow match we'd been desperately searching for could be connected to him, then I had no choice. I slid into the car. The door closed behind me with the solid thunk of German engineering and probably bulletproof glass. The interior smelled of leather and that same jasmine perfume. The woman sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, studying me with those dark, knowing eyes. Start from the beginning, she said quietly, and don't leave anything out. So I did. I told her about that night 5 years ago, when Salvatore had walked into Marino's like he owned the world, which in many ways he did. How he'd sent back his wine 3 times, not because it was bad, but because he wanted to watch me walk to his table. How his eyes had followed me all evening with an intensity that had made my skin burn. How he'd left $1,000 tip and his private number on the receipt. I told her about the 3 months that followed, the late-night calls, the flowers delivered to my apartment, never to the restaurant, always somewhere private, the way he'd shown up at my door at midnight, his knuckles bruised and his shirt torn, but his eyes soft when he looked at me, the way he'd made me feel seen for the first time in my life, cherished, safe. I told her about the night he'd disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. Like he'd never existed. And then, weeks later, discovering I was pregnant. I never tried to contact him, I said, my voice rough. I knew what he was. I knew it could never be real, so I just moved on, had my daughter, named her Sophia, raised her alone. Until she got sick. It wasn't a question. I nodded, my throat too tight for words. Sophia. My beautiful, brave, dying Sophia. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the doctors had said. Aggressive. Advanced. She needed a bone marrow transplant, and I wasn't a match. Neither was anyone in the donor registry. 2 nights ago, I was at the hospital. It was late. Sophia had just finished another round of chemo, and I was getting coffee from the machine on the 4th floor. I could still taste the bitterness of that coffee, still feel the exhaustion weighing down my bones. That's when I saw him, coming out of the elevator. He looked older, tired, but it was him. I would stake my life on it. Did he see you? Yes. The memory made my hands shake. Our eyes met. He froze, just for a second. Then he turned and walked away fast, his men surrounding him. But not before I saw his face, not before I saw the recognition in his eyes. The woman was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the rain continued its assault. I could feel Antonio's presence in the driver's seat, silent and watchful. "My son has been under witness protection for 4 months," she finally said. "He testified against the Calabresi family, against men who would skin him alive if they found him. The FBI faked his death to keep him safe." The words hit me like a physical blow. Witness protection. Faked death. The world tilted again, everything I thought I knew rearranging itself into a new, terrifying pattern. "Then why was he at the hospital?" I whispered. She turned to look at me fully then, and I saw something in her eyes that made my blood run cold. Knowledge. Certainty. And beneath it, a grandmother's desperate hope. He was there because he got a call from the FBI. They'd flagged a bone marrow search in the national database. A little girl, 4 years old. A genetic match to the DeLuca family line. Her voice softened, just slightly. He was there looking for his daughter. The world narrowed to a single point. Her words echoing in my skull like a death knell. His daughter. Sophia. My Sophia. The little girl who laughed at cartoons and begged for extra bedtime stories. Who held my hand through every needle stick and never complained even when the pain made her cry. She wasn't just mine anymore. She was his. "I need to see him." The words tore from my throat raw and desperate. "I need to talk to him. Sophia needs—" "What Sophia needs," the woman interrupted, her voice sharp as cut glass, "is to stay alive. And what Salvatore needs is to not get murdered by the Calabresi family. Do you understand what you've done, coming here? Screaming that he's alive in front of 50 witnesses, half of whom probably have connections to the very people hunting him?" The accusation struck like a slap. "I didn't know, I saw the funeral and I thought," my voice cracked. "My daughter is dying. I saw her father alive, and every instinct I have screamed at me to fight for her. What would you have done?" Something flickered across her face. Pain, perhaps, or recognition. She reached forward and pressed a button on the console. "Antonio, take us to the safe house, the one in Rye." "Signora, the FBI can go to hell. My granddaughter is dying, and my son is apparently making hospital visits. The situation has already spiraled. We contain it now. Our way." She settled back against the leather, her eyes never leaving my face. "You said he recognized you?" I nodded, remembering the shock in his eyes, the way his whole body had gone rigid. For a second, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Then his men pushed him toward the stairs and he was gone. "He ran from you." She said it thoughtfully, as if piecing together a puzzle. "Interesting." "What's interesting about it?" Bitterness leaked into my voice. "He ran 5 years ago too. Apparently it's what he does best." "My son does not run from anything." Her tone carried absolute certainty. "If he ran from you, it was to protect you. Everything Salvatore does, he does with purpose." She paused, studying me with those dark, penetrating eyes. "Tell me, Elena Martinez, in those 3 months you spent together, did he ever bring you into his world? Introduce you to associates? Take you to family events?" "No." I frowned, remembering. He always came to me, always alone, or with just one guard waiting outside. "We never went anywhere public together," he said. I trailed off, the memory suddenly taking on new significance. "He said what?" "He said I was too good for his world, that he was keeping me separate, safe." The word tasted different now, loaded with meaning I hadn't understood then, because he was already falling in love with you. She said it matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. "And men like my son, when they love something, they lock it away where it can't be touched, can't be tainted, can't be used against them." The car turned off the main road heading north. Through the tinted windows, I watched the city give way to suburbs, then to the green expanse of countryside. Rain-soaked trees blurred past, and my mind raced ahead, trying to process everything. "If he knew about Sophia," I said slowly, "if he knew she was sick and needed him, why didn't he contact me? Why make me think he was dead? Because the moment he acknowledges her existence, she becomes a target." Antonio spoke for the first time, his eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror. "Every enemy the DeLuca family has made in 3 generations would use that little girl to get to him. And after his testimony, there's a $20 million bounty on his head. Think about what people would pay for leverage like a sick child. The horror of it crashed over me. I'd been so focused on Sophia's medical needs, on the desperate search for a donor, that I hadn't considered the other implications. If the wrong people found out she was Salvatore's daughter, oh God. My hand flew to my mouth. I used my real name. At the hospital. When I registered her. Martinez. If they're looking at genetic matches, if they connected her to the DeLuca family, then they already know. The older woman's voice was gentle now, almost kind, which means we have very little time. The Calabrese family has eyes everywhere, including in law enforcement. If they haven't connected the dots yet, they will soon. So what do we do? Panic made my voice rise. I can't just... Sophia's in the middle of treatment. She's too weak to move. The doctors said, the doctors will do what we tell them. She reached over and placed her hand on mine. Her skin was cool, her grip firm. I'm Lucia DeLuca. I've been making doctors do impossible things for 40 years. Your daughter will get the best care available. But first, we need to get her somewhere secure. And you need to see Salvatore. Why? The question came out as a whisper. Because he needs to look his daughter's mother in the eye and explain why he abandoned you both. Because you deserve answers. And because... She paused. Something complicated crossing her features. Because he's been destroying himself with guilt for 4 months. And it's time for him to stop running. The safe house turned out to be a sprawling estate hidden behind stone walls and tall gates that opened only after Antonio entered a code and submitted to a retinal scan. The house itself was modern, all glass and steel, designed to look expensive and empty. The kind of place rich people kept as a tax write-off. But I saw the cameras, the reinforced doors, the way Antonio's hand never strayed far from the gun under his jacket. Inside, the air smelled of lemon polish and disuse. Lucia led me through a pristine living room into a study lined with books that had probably never been read. She poured amber liquid from a crystal decanter into 2 glasses and handed me one. Drink. You're shaking. I was. My whole body trembled with adrenaline and fear, and too many emotions to name. I took a sip. Whiskey, smooth and expensive, burned down my throat. He'll be here within the hour, Lucia said, settling into a leather chair. Antonio sent word. And then, Elena Martinez, you and my son will have a conversation that's 5 years overdue. The waiting was torture. I couldn't sit still. I paced the length of the study, then the living room, then found myself staring out a window at the rain-soaked gardens. My phone buzzed in my pocket, the hospital probably, wondering where I was. I'd left so suddenly, driven by desperate instinct to that funeral. I should call them. Check on Sophia. But my hands wouldn't work. All I could think about was seeing him again. Salvatore. The man who'd made me feel alive, and then vanished like smoke. The man whose daughter was dying in a hospital bed, fighting a battle she couldn't win alone. The man who'd apparently been trying to save her from the shadows. He was a good boy. Lucia's voice drifted from the study. I turned to find her in the doorway, watching me with those knowing eyes. Before the life consumed him. He used to paint, did you know that? Watercolors. He had such gentle hands for a child born into blood. Why are you telling me this? Because you're angry. I can see it in the set of your jaw, the way you're holding yourself, and you have every right to be. But I need you to understand, my son is not a coward. He's a man caught between impossible choices, trying to protect everyone except himself. He should have told me. My voice broke. 5 years ago, he should have told me what he was walking away from. Let me make my own choice. Would you have let him go if he had? The question hung in the air. I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. Because the truth was, I didn't know. 5 years ago, I'd been different. Younger, so desperately in love with a man I barely knew, with the way he touched me like I was precious, looked at me like I was the only real thing in his dangerous world. If he'd asked me to wait, would I have? If he'd asked me to run with him, would I have followed? The sound of tires on gravel made us both freeze. Doors slamming, low voices. Antonio's measured tones, and then another voice, deeper, rougher, saying something in rapid Italian that sounded like a curse. Lucia straightened, smoothing her already perfect hair. Remember, she said quietly. He's been living in hell. Be angry. Demand answers. But give him a chance to explain. Then the door opened, and Salvatore De Luca walked into the room. He'd changed. 5 years had carved lines into his face, silver threading through the dark hair at his temples. He was thinner, harder, dressed in dark jeans and a black shirt that had seen better days, so different from the expensive suits I remembered. But his eyes were the same, dark, intense, capable of seeing straight through every defense I'd ever built. Those eyes landed on me, and the world stopped. Elena. My name on his lips was a prayer and a curse and an apology all at once. Cristo, Elena, you shouldn't be here. Neither should you. My voice came out steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. You're supposed to be dead. I am dead. He took a step forward, then stopped, his hands curling into fists at his sides. That man you knew? He died 4 months ago. Everything he was, everything he wanted, gone. Dead. Buried. Except he was at St. Mary's Hospital 2 nights ago. I forced myself to hold his gaze. Looking for his daughter. The words hit him like a bullet. I watched him absorb the impact, saw something crack in that carefully controlled expression. You know, I know you ran. Again. Anger gave me strength. I moved forward, closing the distance between us, ignoring Lucia's sharp intake of breath and Antonio's protective shift. I know you found out Sophia exists, and instead of coming to me, instead of being a man and facing what you'd done, I stayed away to keep you both alive. The words exploded from him, raw and desperate. Do you understand what you're involved in now? What danger you've put yourself in just by speaking my name out loud? The Calabrese family would torture you for days just to make me suffer. They would hurt your daughter, our daughter, in ways I can't even say out loud. So yes, I ran. I stayed away, because the only thing keeping you safe was the fact that nobody knew you existed. Well, they know now. I was shouting too, years of hurt and fear and exhaustion pouring out. Because I saw my daughter's father at a hospital and I tried to find him. Because there's a funeral announcement in every newspaper. Because I'm a desperate mother trying to save her dying child, and I don't have the luxury of your Mafia code and your witness protection and your... Sophia. He said her name like it was sacred. Is she? She's 4 years old. She likes purple and princesses and thinks the moon is made of cheese. She's brave and funny and so sick. My voice cracked, tears finally spilling over. And she's dying, Salvatore. She needs a bone marrow transplant, and I wasn't a match. And when they ran her genetics through the database looking for donors, they must have flagged your family markers. That's why you were there, isn't it? Because some FBI agent told you that you had a daughter who needed you? He moved then, closing the distance between us in 2 strides. His hands came up as if to touch me, then dropped. I didn't know. About her. Not until 3 days ago. Elena, I swear to God, if I'd known you were pregnant, you would have what? Stayed? Given up everything? We both know that's not how this works. I wiped at my face, angry at the tears. You made your choice 5 years ago. You chose your family, your duty, your world. And I dealt with it. I moved on. I raised our daughter alone and I was fine. But now she's dying, and you're the only one who can save her. So here we are. Silence fell, broken only by the rain against the windows and my ragged breathing. Salvatore stood so close I could smell him. Different cologne. Cheaper. But underneath, still him. Still the scent that had once meant safety and desire and everything I'd thought I wanted. I'll be tested, he said quietly. Today, now, whatever she needs, I'll give her everything. It's not that simple. Antonio spoke from near the door. A bone marrow donation requires surgery, recovery time. Salvatore can't just walk into a hospital. The moment he surfaces officially, the Calabrese family will know. His testimony put 3 of their captains in prison for life. They won't stop until he's dead. Then what do we do? I looked between them. This family of criminals and secrets. Just let her die? Because that's the alternative. Without a transplant, Sophia has maybe 6 months. Maybe. We do it off the books. Lucia's voice was calm, decisive. I have a surgeon. He owes the family. We bring him here, set up a sterile suite, do the extraction and transplant in stages. It's risky, but I don't care about the risk. Salvatore's jaw was set, his whole body radiating fierce determination. Set it up, whatever it takes, whatever it costs. It will cost your freedom, Antonio said it quietly. Once we move the girl here, once we start this process, you can't go back to witness protection. The FBI will know. They'll withdraw support. You'll be on your own. Then I'll be on my own. Salvatore's eyes never left my face. My daughter is dying. There's no choice. 24 hours later, I stood in a bedroom that had been converted into a medical suite, watching my daughter sleep in a hospital bed that had been delivered at dawn. Sophia looked impossibly small against the white sheets, her dark curls spread across the pillow. Her skin too pale except for the bruises blooming along her arms where the IVs had been placed. But she was here. Safe. Away from the sterile hospital where anyone could find her. Away from everything familiar. Mama? Her voice was small, confused. Those dark eyes, Salvatore's eyes, blinked open. Where are we? Somewhere safe, baby. I smoothed her hair back, pressing a kiss to her forehead. She was warm but not feverish. A good sign. Remember I told you we were going on an adventure? With the fancy car? A tiny smile curved her lips. And the nice lady who gave me chocolate? Lucia, who'd charmed my daughter within 5 minutes of meeting her, speaking Italian nonsense that made Sophia giggle despite her exhaustion. Who'd held my hand in the ambulance, private, unmarked, driven by men with guns, while I tried not to fall apart. That's right, we're at her house now. I adjusted her blankets, checking the IV line. The hospital had released her into home care. It had taken 3 doctors, 2 phone calls from Lucia, and probably a substantial bribe. But they'd done it. There's someone here who wants to meet you. Is that okay? Sophia nodded, her eyes already drifting closed again. The medication kept her drowsy, floating in and out of consciousness. I'd been told that was normal after chemo, that her body needed rest to heal, but there was no healing, not without the transplant, not without him. I found Salvatore in the study, staring out at the rain-soaked gardens. He'd changed into fresh clothes, expensive again, provided by his mother, but he looked exhausted, haunted. Antonio stood near the door, ever present, and 2 other men I'd been introduced to as family lingered in the hallway. Security, protection, prison guards maybe, depending on how you looked at it. She's awake, I said quietly. If you want to meet her. He turned, and the fear in his eyes was so raw it hurt to see. What did you tell her? About me? Nothing yet. She's 4, Salvatore. She doesn't understand where babies come from, much less why her father was never there. I crossed my arms, defensive. I thought maybe you'd want to explain it yourself. How do I explain this to a child? His hand scraped through his hair, a gesture I remembered. Frustration, uncertainty. What do I say? Hello? I'm your father. I've been hiding from killers while you learned to walk. You could start with hello and see where it goes. The bite in my voice made him flinch. Good, he should flinch. He should feel every bit of this awkwardness and pain. But you don't have to do this if you're not ready. The blood test confirmed you're a match. That's all that really matters. That's not all that matters. He moved toward me, and I saw it then. The man I'd fallen for underneath the criminal, the fugitive, the stranger. Elena. She's my daughter. She's part of me. How could that not matter? It didn't seem to matter 5 years ago. The words hung between us, sharp as knives. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought he might argue, defend himself. Instead, he just nodded. You're right. I was a coward. I should have told you the truth instead of just disappearing. He took a breath. My father had just died. The Calabresi family was making moves to take over our territory. There were attempts on my life, 3 in 1 month. I couldn't let them know about you. Couldn't let you become a target. So I cut you off completely, changed my number. Had my men make sure you were safe from a distance, but never contacted you again. You had me watched. Something cold slithered down my spine. To protect you. To make sure no one connected you to me. His voice was quiet, ashamed. I know how it sounds, but Elena, if they'd known about you, they would have hurt me. I understand. You've explained. I turned away, unable to look at him. But you should have let me decide if I wanted that risk. Instead, you made the choice for me. Just like you're making choices now. What does that mean? It means I'm standing in a mansion surrounded by armed men. My daughter has been moved to a secret location without proper hospital oversight, and I have no say in any of it. I whirled back to face him. You've trapped us here, Salvatore. Maybe to keep us safe. Maybe because you need to control everything. But trapped is trapped. You can leave. He said it immediately. Anytime. I'll have Antonio take you anywhere you want. Different city, different state. New identities, money, protection. You're not a prisoner. Except Sophia needs you. Needs your bone marrow. So where exactly would we go? I laughed, bitter. You've got us in a perfect cage. Golden bars, comfortable, but still a cage. Before he could respond, Lucia appeared in the doorway. The surgeon is here. He's ready to examine Sophia and run preliminary tests on Salvatore. The procedure itself can happen in 2 days if everything checks out. 2 days. 48 hours until my daughter might have a real chance at life. The thought made my knees weak with relief and terror in equal measure. I want to be there, I said firmly. For all of it. The examination, the tests, everything. Of course. Lucia's expression was understanding. You're her mother, but Salvatore also needs to meet her before the procedure. She should know who he is to her. The three of us stood in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down like a physical force. Then Salvatore straightened his shoulders, squaring himself as if preparing for battle. Take me to her. The walk down the hallway felt eternal. I could hear his breathing. Controlled, measured, but faster than normal, nervous. At Sophia's door, he paused, his hand on the frame, and I saw it tremble. She looks like you, I said softly. Your eyes, your stubborn chin. When she's healthy, she has your smile too. When she's healthy, he repeated the words like a prayer. Cristo, Elena, I'm going to make sure she gets there, whatever it takes. Then he opened the door, and I followed him into the room where our daughter waited. Sophia was sitting up slightly, the bed adjusted so she could see. Her eyes went wide when she saw Salvatore, this tall, dark stranger, and instinctively, she reached for me. I moved to her side immediately, taking her small hand. Sophia, baby, this is Salvatore. The words caught in my throat. I couldn't say father. Not yet. He's going to help you get better. Are you a doctor? Her voice was so small, so hopeful. Salvatore moved closer slowly, carefully, as if approaching something precious and breakable. He sank into the chair beside her bed, bringing himself down to her level. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. No, Princessa, I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to give you something that will help you fight the bad cells in your body. He glanced at me, uncertain. Your mama told me you're very brave. I am brave. Sophia said it with the absolute certainty of a 4-year-old, but sometimes the medicine hurts, and I cry. Mama says that's okay too. Your mama is very smart. His eyes met mine over her head, and I saw everything there. Regret, fear, desperate love for a child he'd just met. Crying when things hurt is brave too. It means you're strong enough to feel things. Sophia studied him with the serious intensity children sometimes have. You have sad eyes, like Mama when she thinks I'm sleeping. The observation hit like a punch. I'd thought I'd hidden it better. The fear, the exhaustion, the grief of watching your child slip away inch by inch. But children see everything. They always do. I am sad, Salvatore admitted, because I should have been here sooner, should have known you sooner. But I'm here now, and I promise, I'm going to help make you better. Okay. She said it simply, with a child's easy acceptance. Then, with devastating directness, "Are you my daddy?" The room went silent. I saw Salvatore's throat work, saw him struggle for words. Finally, he nodded. "Yes, Princessa. I'm your father." "Oh." Sophia processed this, her small face thoughtful. "Mama said my daddy had to be far away, that he couldn't come home." "Were you fighting bad guys, like in the movies?" "Something like that." His voice was barely a whisper. "But I'm here now, and I'm never going to be far away again." The promise hung in the air, reckless and impossible and absolutely sincere. I wanted to protest, to remind him of the danger, the Calabrese family, the bounty on his head, but the look on his face stopped me. This wasn't a man making empty promises. This was a man who'd just found something worth dying for. The surgeon, a severe-looking man in his 60s named Dr. Russo, examined Sophia with efficient precision, asking questions about her treatment history, her symptoms, her reactions to the chemotherapy. I answered everything while Salvatore stood back, his hands clenched into fists, watching every move the doctor made with predatory intensity. "She's a good candidate," Dr. Russo finally announced. "Weak, but stable enough for the procedure. We'll need to time it carefully, let her rebuild strength after the last chemo round, but not wait so long that the cancer progresses. I'd say 48 hours is optimal." "And the risks?" I had to ask. "With any transplant, rejection, infection, graft versus host disease, but her youth works in her favor. Children bounce back faster than adults." He turned to Salvatore. "You're the donor?" "Yes." "Then we'll need to run your blood work, do a full physical. Bone marrow extraction is painful and carries its own risks. You'll be under anesthesia for the procedure, but recovery will take weeks, possibly months." "I don't care about recovery." Salvatore's voice was flat. "Do whatever you need to do." The next hours blurred together. Blood tests, physical exams. Salvatore disappearing with Dr. Russo while I stayed with Sophia, reading her favorite stories, pretending everything was normal. Lucia brought food that I couldn't eat, made phone calls in rapid Italian that I didn't understand, and through it all, maintained an atmosphere of calm control that should have been reassuring, but instead felt like the eye of a hurricane. When darkness fell, Antonio appeared at the door. "There's a problem." The word sent ice through my veins. "What kind of problem?" "The Calabrese family. They've connected the dots." He looked at Salvatore, who'd just returned from the exam. "One of their guys was at the funeral, recognized Elena from somewhere. Probably from years ago when they were watching you. They've put out feelers, asking questions about a woman with a sick kid, about genetic testing and bone marrow matches." "How long do we have?" Salvatore's voice was dead calm. "A day, maybe less. They're moving people into position. Once they confirm Elena's identity, they'll move on this location. Then we do the procedure now." Salvatore turned to me. "Tonight. We can't wait. She needs more time to recover from the chemo," I protested. Dr. Russo said optimal is 48 hours, not necessary. "Elena, if the Calabrese family gets here before the transplant happens, they'll kill me and take you both as leverage. Do you understand? They'll keep Sophia alive just long enough to torture information out of you and then—" "Stop." I held up a hand, unable to hear more. "Just stop." But I understood. The calculation was brutal and simple. Risk Sophia's life in a premature procedure, or guarantee her death when the Calabrese family arrived. No choice at all, really. "I need to talk to Dr. Russo," I said finally. "Need to understand exactly what we're risking." Dr. Russo's expression was grave as he laid out the risks in clinical detail. Performing the transplant now, before Sophia's body had fully recovered from the last chemotherapy session, increased the chance of complications. Her immune system was compromised. Her organs were stressed. The transplant itself would be shock to a system already fighting for survival. "But it's possible?" I pressed, my fingernails digging crescents into my palms. "She could survive it? Children are remarkably resilient," he said carefully. "I've seen them survive worse odds. But I won't lie to you, Mrs. Martinez. This is dangerous. If we wait, her chances improve significantly. If we proceed now, we're gambling." "And if we don't proceed at all?" Salvatore's voice cut through the room like a blade. If armed men break through those gates in 12 hours, what are her chances then? Dr. Russo's silence was answer enough. I looked at Sophia, sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed, her small chest rising and falling with each breath. 4 years old. She should be in preschool, playing with other children, worrying about nothing more serious than which crayon to use. Instead, she was dying, caught in a war she didn't understand, dependent on a father she'd just met, and a mother who was drowning in impossible decisions. Do it, I whispered. Do the procedure. Now. The next hours moved with the terrible efficiency of an emergency room. Dr. Russo barked orders to his 2 assistants, nurses he'd brought with him, people Lucia vouched for, though I wondered what that meant in this world. The bedroom beside Sophia's was transformed into a surgical suite. Equipment rolled in on silent wheels, sterile sheets draped over every surface. Salvatore was taken first. I watched him go, saw the way he looked back at Sophia with something like wonder and terror mixed together. Then the door closed, and I was left alone with my daughter, and the crushing weight of my choices. Mama! Sophia's voice was groggy. They'd given her pre-sedation medication, something to calm her before the general anesthesia. I'm sleepy. I know, baby. That's okay. You're going to take a nice long nap, and when you wake up, you're going to start feeling better. I smoothed her hair back, memorizing her face, just in case. I love you so much. More than all the stars in the sky. More than all the chocolate in the world. It was our game. One we'd played since she could talk. More than all the chocolate in all the worlds. My voice cracked. You're my everything, Sophia, my brave, beautiful girl. I love you too, Mama. Her eyes were drifting closed. Don't be sad. The man with the sad eyes is going to make me better. He promised. Then the nurses came to take her, and I had to let go of her hand, had to watch as they wheeled her away, this tiny person who was my entire universe, into a room where anything could go wrong. Where I couldn't follow, couldn't protect her. Lucia found me in the hallway, collapsed against the wall, trying to remember how to breathe. She's strong, the older woman said quietly, sitting beside me on the floor without regard for her expensive clothes. Like her mother, like her father. She's a DeLuca. We survive. What if she doesn't? The words tore out of me. What if I just made the worst decision of my life? What if rushing this kills her? Then we'll deal with it. Together. Her hand found mine, squeezed tight. But right now, you need to believe she's going to make it, because that little girl can feel your fear, even under anesthesia. She needs your strength. I wanted to ask how she knew that. Wanted to ask if she'd ever sat in a hallway waiting to find out if her child would live or die. But the haunted look in her eyes told me she had. Maybe not in a hospital, maybe not like this, but she'd lost someone. Everyone in this family had lost someone. That's what made them so dangerous. Tell me about him, I said instead. About Salvatore as a child. I want to know who he was before all this. Lucia was quiet for a moment, her eyes distant with memory. He was gentle. Too gentle for this life. He cried when his father took him hunting the first time, refused to shoot the deer. His father beat him for it, said the DeLuca air couldn't be soft. But Salvatore just took the punishment and stayed soft anyway. She smiled sadly. He used to sneak out to paint by the lake. Watercolors of the sunrise, the trees, birds in flight. Beautiful, delicate things. His father found them once and burned them all. Said art was for women and weaklings. That's horrible. That's the life. That's what we do to our children. Break them into shapes that fit our world. Her grip on my hand tightened. When he met you, I saw something change in him. He started smiling again, laughing. I didn't know about you then. He kept you secret. But I knew there was someone who made him remember who he'd been before we ruined him. He ruined himself, I said bitterly. He chose this life, did he? She turned to look at me fully. Or was he born into it, trained for it from the moment he could walk? When your father is a crime lord and your mother is complicit, when everyone around you speaks the language of violence and loyalty and blood, what choice do you really have? I didn't have an answer. Didn't want to humanize him. Didn't want to understand. It was easier to be angry, safer to hold on to the hurt of abandonment than to acknowledge the complexity of what he'd been facing. But Sophia had his eyes, his stubborn chin, his gentle heart beneath the hard exterior. She was half him, and I needed her to survive. Antonio appeared at the end of the hallway, his phone pressed to his ear, his expression grim. When he finished the call, he approached us with careful steps. The Calabresi family has confirmed Elena's identity. They know about Sophia. They're mobilizing. He looked at Lucia. We have maybe 8 hours, 10 if we're lucky. Then we hold, Lucia said calmly, rising to her feet with fluid grace. Call in everyone loyal to us. I want this house turned into a fortress. No one gets through those gates. Signora, with respect, there are only so many men we can trust. The Calabresi family has numbers, resources. If they come in force, then we make them pay for every inch. Her voice was steel. That's my granddaughter in there, my son. We hold. Antonio nodded and disappeared. I heard him start making calls, his voice low and urgent in Italian. Around us, the house came alive with activity. Men with guns appeared from rooms I hadn't known were occupied. Doors were barricaded, security systems activated. The comfortable mansion transformed into something else entirely. A war zone. You should rest, Lucia said, turning back to me. The surgery will take hours, both procedures. There's nothing you can do right now except wait. I can't rest. Not while she's... My voice broke again. Then come with me. I'll show you something that might help. She led me upstairs to a room I hadn't seen before. Inside, covering every wall, were paintings. Watercolors, just as she'd described. Sunrises and landscapes and birds in flight. They were beautiful. Haunting. Each one signed in the corner with a simple, S. I saved them, Lucia said softly. Everyone my husband tried to destroy, I saved. Hid them away where he couldn't find them. Because I knew someday Salvatore would need to remember who he really was. That he was more than what we made him. I moved closer to one painting. A small bird perched on a branch, its wings spread as if about to take flight. The detail was exquisite, the colors soft and hopeful. He made these when he was 15, before his father's lessons finally took hold, before he stopped believing he could be anything other than a DeLuca. She stood beside me, looking at the paintings with something like grief. I failed him, Elena. I let my husband break our son because I was too weak to stop it. Too caught up in the luxury, the power, the life. By the time I found my courage, it was too late. Why are you showing me this? Because I need you to understand. Salvatore is not just the man who left you. He's not just the criminal, the killer, the fugitive. He's also the boy who painted birds and cried for wounded animals. He's both things. All things. And your daughter, our Sophia, she has a chance to be better than both of us. Better than this whole broken family. Lucia's eyes glistened. But only if she survives. Only if we can give her that chance. A knock on the door interrupted us. One of Dr. Russo's assistants stood there, still in surgical scrubs, her expression carefully neutral. The extraction is complete. Mr. DeLuca is in recovery. We're beginning the transplant procedure now. My heart lurched. Is he okay, Salvatore? Tired, in pain, but stable. He's asking for you. I looked at Lucia, uncertain. Sophia is in the best hands available. Go. See him. He needs to know you don't hate him quite as much as you think you do. I followed the nurse down the hallway, my legs shaking. Salvatore was in a recovery room, lying in a hospital bed similar to Sophia's, his skin pale against the white sheets. There was a bandage on his lower back where they'd extracted the marrow, and I could see the tightness around his eyes that spoke of pain he was trying to hide. His eyes opened when I entered. Elena, you're supposed to be resting. I can't rest. Not until I know. He tried to sit up, winced, fell back. Cristo. They weren't lying about the pain. They took bone marrow from your spine. What did you expect? I moved to his bedside, found myself checking his vitals on the monitor without thinking, old habits from too many nights in hospitals. Your heart rate is elevated. You need to calm down. My daughter is in surgery because of me, because of my life, my choices, my enemies. How am I supposed to calm down? Because Sophia needs you alive and whole when she wakes up. I pulled a chair close, sat down heavily. And because if you stress yourself into a heart attack right now, I'll kill you myself. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. There's the fire, I remember. I was starting to think I'd broken you completely. You didn't break me. You left me. There's a difference. I leaned back, exhausted. Though I'm not sure which is worse. I'm sorry. The words were simple, but the weight behind them was enormous. For all of it. For not being there. For not knowing about Sophia. For dragging you into this mess now. Elena, if I could go back... You can't. None of us can. I cut him off because I couldn't bear to hear what-ifs. What's done is done. Now we just have to survive the consequences. Silence fell between us, filled with the beeping of monitors and distant sounds of men fortifying the house. Salvatore watched me with those dark eyes, and I saw everything there: regret, fear, love he had no right to feel for a daughter he'd just met. She's beautiful, he said finally. Sophia, she looks like you. She has your eyes, your stubborn determination. I managed a weak smile. Last month, she insisted on going to the park even though she could barely stand. Said she wasn't going to let the mean cells win. That's pure De Luca stubbornness, or Martina's strength. His hand reached out, hesitated, then settled on the bed between us. An invitation, not a demand. You raised an incredible child, Elena. You did that alone. That's strength. That's all you. I looked at his hand, remembering how it used to feel against my skin, how safe I'd felt when he held me, how completely I'd believed in a future that had never really existed. Slowly, I reached out and took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and solid and real. We sat there in silence as the minutes ticked by, two people who'd once loved each other desperately, now bound together by a daughter fighting for her life in the next room. Whatever happens, Salvatore said quietly, I'm not leaving again. Even if the worst happens, I'm not running. I'm staying, fighting, for you both. The Calabrese family can go to hell. I'm done being afraid, done hiding. If they want me, they can come. But they'll have to go through me to get to you and Sophia. It was insane. Reckless. The kind of statement that got people killed in his world. But looking at his face, I believed him. And that terrified me more than anything else. The surgery took 6 hours. 6 hours of sitting in that hallway with Lucia, watching Salvatore sleep fitfully in the recovery room, listening to Antonio's increasingly tense phone calls as the Calabrese family drew closer. 6 hours of praying to a God I wasn't sure I believed in anymore, making desperate bargains. Take me instead. Let her live. Please just let her live. When Dr. Russo finally emerged, still in his surgical scrubs, his face was impossible to read. The transplant is complete, he said, and I couldn't breathe. It went as well as could be expected given the circumstances. The marrow is in. Now we wait. Wait for what? My voice was barely a whisper, for her body to accept it, for the new cells to begin producing healthy blood, for signs of rejection or infection, or any of a dozen complications. He pulled off his surgical cap, revealing sweat-dampened hair. The next 48 hours are critical. If she makes it through that, her chances improve significantly. Can I see her? She's in recovery, still under sedation. But yes, you can sit with her. I was moving before he finished speaking, pushing past him into the surgical suite. Sophia looked impossibly small in the bed, surrounded by machines and monitors, an oxygen mask over her tiny face. But her chest was rising and falling. Her heart was beating. She was alive. I sank into the chair beside her and took her hand, careful of all the tubes and wires. I'm here, baby. Mama's here. You did so good. So brave. Now you just need to rest and heal and... My voice broke. Everything I'd been holding back, the fear, the exhaustion, the overwhelming terror of the past 48 hours, crashed over me like a wave. I pressed my forehead to her small hand and sobbed. I don't know how long I sat there. Time became meaningless. There was only Sophia's heartbeat on the monitor, the rise and fall of her chest, the warmth of her skin under my fingers. Proof she was still here, still fighting. "Elena." Salvatore's voice came from the doorway. I looked up to see him leaning heavily on the doorframe, one hand pressed to his back where the extraction site was. He shouldn't have been out of bed, should have been resting, but his eyes were fixed on Sophia, with an expression of such raw emotion it hurt to witness. "You should be lying down," I said roughly, wiping at my face. I needed to see her, needed to know she made it through. He moved into the room slowly, pain evident in every step, and positioned himself on the other side of Sophia's bed. "Christo, she's so small." "How is she so small? She's 4. My voice was sharp with exhaustion and fear. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. I've never—" He reached out, his hand hovering over Sophia's dark curls, not quite touching. "I've never been a father before, never thought I'd have the chance, and now she's here and she's—" The explosion cut him off. The windows shattered inward in a spray of glass and fire. I threw myself over Sophia's bed instinctively, covering her body with mine as the world erupted into chaos. Gunfire, shouting, the acrid smell of smoke and burning. "They're breaching the east gate," Antonio's voice, somewhere distant. Calabrese family, at least 20 men. Strong hands grabbed me, pulled me off Sophia. Salvatore, his face a mask of controlled fury, was already moving despite his injury. "We need to get her out of here, now." "She just had surgery," I screamed over the sound of more gunfire. "She can't be moved. She can't stay here." He was already disconnecting monitors, his hands swift and sure despite the chaos. "They'll kill her, Elena. They'll kill all of us. We move or we die. Doctor." Russo burst into the room with his assistants. "There's a panic room. Lower level. Reinforced. We can set up there." "No." Lucia appeared in the doorway, blood splattered across her expensive clothes. Whether hers or someone else's, I couldn't tell. Her hair had come loose from its elegant style, and she held a gun in one hand like she knew how to use it. "The panic room is compromised. They had inside information. We need to evacuate completely." "Where?" Salvatore lifted Sophia with terrible gentleness, cradling her against his chest. She didn't wake, too sedated, and I saw the terror in his eyes as he felt how fragile she was. "Where do we go that they won't follow?" "The church." Lucia's voice was steel. "St. Anthony's. Father Marco will give us sanctuary. Even the Calabrese family won't violate that." "You're putting a lot of faith in tradition," Antonio said grimly, appearing behind her with blood on his knuckles. "I'm putting faith in the fact that Marco has been taking our confessions for 40 years and knows enough secrets to bury both families." Lucia's smile was sharp. "He'll protect us. Now move." The escape was a nightmare of smoke and sound and terror. Salvatore carried Sophia with one arm, the other hand holding a gun that Antonio had pressed into it. I stayed close, my body acting as a shield for my daughter, even though I had no real protection to offer. We moved through hallways filled with armed men, some De Luca family, some Calabrese, locked in brutal close-quarters combat. A man lunged at us from a doorway. Antonio shot him without hesitation, the body dropping at our feet. I wanted to scream, to freeze, but Lucia's hand on my back kept me moving. Forward. Always forward. "The garage," she commanded. "The armored SUV. Go." We burst into the garage to find it already full of smoke. 2 vehicles were burning, but the black SUV in the corner sat untouched, armored, and waiting. Antonio was behind the wheel in seconds, engine roaring to life. Salvatore climbed into the back, still holding Sophia, and I scrambled in after them. Lucia took the passenger seat, calmly loading a fresh magazine into her gun. "Drive," she said simply. Antonio didn't need to be told twice. The SUV crashed through the garage door, emerging into a war zone. The elegant estate was burning, men fighting and dying on the pristine lawn. Bullets pinged off the armored exterior as we accelerated toward the gate. "Hold on." Antonio yanked the wheel hard, slamming through the iron gates that were already damaged from the initial breach. The SUV fishtailed on the wet road, but held steady as we raced away from the destruction. I looked back once, saw the mansion engulfed in flames, saw bodies on the ground. saw the life Salvatore had built burning to ashes behind us. Then we rounded a corner, and it was gone. Sophia stirred against Salvatore's chest, making a small sound of distress. I immediately checked her over. Her breathing was steady, her color reasonable given the circumstances. The IV had been torn loose in the chaos, but the bandage over the transplant site was intact. "She's okay," I breathed. "She's okay. For now." Salvatore's voice was hollow. "But they know about her now. About you." "They'll never stop hunting us, then we don't stop running." I met his eyes across Sophia's sleeping form. "Whatever it takes. However long. We keep her safe. There's another option." Lucia turned in her seat to look at us. Her elegant facade was gone, replaced by something harder, older. "We end this. Tonight. We finish what should have been finished months ago." "What are you talking about?" I demanded. "I'm talking about going to war." Her eyes were cold and certain. "The Calabresi family has violated every code, every tradition. They attacked a house under truce, targeted a child, burned our home. The other families will support us in retaliation." "More violence isn't the answer," I protested. "More people will die." "People are already dying." Antonio's voice was grim. "We lost 6 men in that attack. Good men, loyal men. And the Calabresi family won't stop. Not until they have Salvatore's head on a pike. So what do you propose?" Salvatore's hand tightened on Sophia. "We go to war while my daughter recovers from surgery? Put her in more danger? We put her somewhere safe first." Lucia's voice softened slightly. "St. Anthony's as planned. Father Marco has a network, safe houses run by the church, places even we don't know about. Sophia and Elena can hide there while we handle this." "No." The word came out hard and fast. "I'm not leaving Sophia. I'm not hiding while her father handles the mess his life created." Lucia's eyes were kind but firm. "Elena, you're a good mother, a strong woman. But you're not part of this world. You don't know how to fight it. Let us do what we're trained to do. Let us protect you the only way we know how." I wanted to argue, wanted to insist I could fight, could protect my daughter myself. But the truth was, I had no idea how to navigate this world of violence and vendettas. I was a waitress, a single mother, not a soldier, not like them. "If we go to war," Salvatore said slowly, "it needs to end decisively. Not just drive them back, end them completely. So Sophia never has to look over her shoulder. So she can grow up without this hanging over her head." "Agreed." Lucia's voice was steel. "We call in every favor, every alliance. We make an example that will echo through every family in the country. The Calabresi family dies. All of them. Root and branch." The casual discussion of genocide made my stomach turn, but looking at Sophia's peaceful face, remembering the terror of that attack, I couldn't find it in myself to protest. These people had tried to kill my daughter, had destroyed any chance of normal life we might have had. They'd started this war. The De Luca family was just going to finish it. St. Anthony's Church appeared through the rain like a sanctuary from another time. Gothic spires reached toward the cloudy sky, and warm light spilled from the stained glass windows. Father Marco himself stood in the doorway, a small elderly man in simple black vestments, waiting as if he'd known we were coming. "Lucia." His voice was accented, gentle. "You bring violence to my doorstep again. I bring a dying child who needs sanctuary." She climbed out of the SUV, her gun still in hand. "Will you turn us away, Father?" He looked at Sophia and Salvatore's arms, and something softened in his weathered face. "Never. Come, quickly." The church had a rectory attached, small, simple rooms that smelled of incense and old books. Father Marco led us to a bedroom and watched as Salvatore laid Sophia carefully on the bed. Dr. Russo, who'd somehow made it out in a second vehicle with his equipment, immediately began setting up monitors again, checking her vitals, re-establishing IV lines. "She's stable," he reported after a tense examination. "Remarkably stable, considering. The transplant site is intact. No signs of immediate rejection. But she needs rest. Quiet. Time to heal." "She'll have it." Father Marco's voice was firm. This room is sanctuary. No violence crosses this threshold. Old law, older than any of your families. Salvatore nodded, his hand lingering on Sophia's dark curls. Then he turned to me, and I saw the decision in his eyes before he spoke. I have to go. Help end this. Make sure she's safe forever. I know. The words hurt, but they were true. Just come back. She needs to know her father, not just as the man who saved her life, but as the man who stayed. I'll come back. He pulled me close, his embrace fierce despite his injury. I swear it, Elena. On everything I am, I'll come back to both of you. Then he was gone, disappearing into the night with Lucia and Antonio, and the gathered remains of their family. Going to war. Going to kill or be killed. All I could do was wait. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I sat beside Sophia's bed in that small sanctuary room, watching her slowly wake from sedation, watching her body fight the battle happening inside it. New cells versus old. Health versus sickness. Life versus death. Father Marco brought food I couldn't eat and prayers I couldn't quite believe in. Dr. Russo checked her vitals every few hours, his expression carefully neutral. And outside, the world went to war. News reports spoke of gang violence, police raids, bodies found in warehouses and alleys. The Calabrese family was being systematically destroyed, their operations dismantled, their people scattered or killed. The De Luca family, in alliance with 3 other major families, had made good on their promise of total war. And Salvatore was in the middle of it all. On the 4th day, Sophia opened her eyes and asked for water. Her voice was weak but clear, and when I gave her the cup with trembling hands, she smiled. Mama, you look tired. I am tired, baby. I smoothed her hair back, feeling the warmth of her skin, still warm, but not feverish. Warm like life. But you're awake. You're talking. That's all that matters. Where's the man with the sad eyes? My daddy? The word on her lips made my heart clench. He had to go away for a little while, but he's coming back. He promised. She accepted this with a child's simple faith. Mama, I'm hungry, I laughed, the sound breaking into a sob. You're hungry? Oh, thank God. Thank God. Dr. Russo confirmed it the next morning. The transplant was taking. Sophia's body was accepting the new bone marrow, beginning to produce healthy cells. The cancer was in retreat. She wasn't cured. Not yet. Not completely. But she was going to live. My daughter was going to live. On the 7th day, Salvatore came back. I was reading to Sophia, her favorite story about a princess and a dragon, when I heard footsteps in the hallway. I looked up to see him standing in the doorway, and my heart stopped. He was battered, bruised, one arm in a sling, bandages visible under his torn shirt. But he was alive, whole. And when his eyes found mine, I saw everything there. Exhaustion, relief, love. Daddy. Sophia's voice was still weak, but her joy was unmistakable. You came back. I promised, didn't I? He moved into the room slowly, favoring his injured side, and sank into the chair beside her bed. How are you feeling, Princessa? Better. The doctor says the medicine you gave me is working. She reached for his hand with the simple trust of a child. Are you okay? You look hurt. I'm fine, just a little banged up. His eyes met mine over her head, and I saw the truth there. It had been bad, brutal, but it was over. The important thing is you're getting better. Are the bad guys gone? Leave it to a 4-year-old to cut straight to the heart of it. Yes, baby. I found my voice finally. The bad guys are gone. You're safe now. We're all safe now, Salvatore said quietly. It's finished. The Calabrese family is gone. All of them. There's no one left to threaten us. The weight of those words, the bodies they represented, hung heavy in the air, but I couldn't find it in myself to mourn. Not for people who'd tried to kill my daughter. So what happens now? I asked. Salvatore looked at me, then at Sophia, then back to me. Now we heal. All of us. Sophia gets better. I serve out my witness protection agreement. There's still testimony to give, trials to finish. But after that, he paused. After that, I'd like to be a father, if you'll let me. I want a daddy, Sophia said immediately, with the child's perfect timing. A daddy who reads stories and plays games and isn't far away. I can do that. Salvatore's voice was thick with emotion. I can be here, every day, whatever you need. I looked at this man, this criminal, this killer, this father who'd given his bone marrow to save a daughter he barely knew, this man who'd walked away once and was now promising to stay. Every logical part of my brain screamed warnings, but my heart, battered and bruised as it was, whispered something different, hope. Okay, I said finally. Stay. Be her father. But Salvatore, if you leave again, if you hurt her, I won't. Never again, I swear it. He reached across Sophia's bed, his hand finding mine. I'm done running, Elena. From my past, from my responsibilities, from you. I'm here, for both of you. For as long as you'll have me. Sophia made a happy sound and snuggled deeper into her pillow. Good. Now you can both read to me. The story's better with two voices. So we did. Salvatore and I, sitting on either side of our daughter's bed, reading her favorite story about princesses and dragons and happy endings. His voice rough with emotion, mine cracking with exhaustion and relief, Sophia's small laughs filling the spaces between. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the life I'd imagined, but it was real. It was ours. And maybe, just maybe, it was enough. 6 months later, I stood in the backyard of a small house in Vermont, watching Sophia chase butterflies through the garden. Her hair had grown back, dark curls bouncing as she ran. Her cheeks were pink with health. She was laughing. She was alive. She's gotten so fast, Salvatore's voice came from beside me. He'd finished his testimony 3 months ago, been released from witness protection with a new identity and a second chance. He was just Sal Martinez now. No DeLuca, no Mafia, just a man trying to build a normal life. I can barely keep up with her. She has your energy. I leaned into him, letting his arm come around my shoulders. It had taken time to trust this, to believe he wouldn't disappear again. But slowly, day by day, we were building something real. And your stubbornness, she has your strength, your heart. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Elena, I never thanked you for giving me this, for letting me be part of her life, part of your lives. You saved her life. That earned you a place in it. I should have been there from the beginning, but you're here now. I turned to face him, reaching up to touch his face. That's what matters. You're here, you're staying, and we're going to be okay. More than okay. He caught my hand, pressed a kiss to my palm. We're going to be happy, all of us. I promise. And watching Sophia spin in circles, her arms spread wide, her face tilted toward the sun, I believed him. The past was gone, burned away in violence and sacrifice and impossible choices. But the future stretched ahead, bright and open and full of possibility. We'd survived the darkness. Now it was time to live in the light,